Hello and welcome to episode 30 of my Reconnect TV live series on Facebook. I'm just going to wait a few moments to see who joins me and whether my comments appear in Facebook, because the last few times I've been on they haven't, but we will carry on regardless. So yes, if you're joining me live, if you can put hashtag live, if you're joining me on replay, hashtag replay, and if you're joining me for the first time, that would be great. If you could let me know. If you've got any questions, as normal, type them in the chat box underneath and I will get down to them. If I don't get to them live on the day, at the moment, I will answer them as we go through later. So yeah, so any questions, let me know. So yeah, so today's topic is, are you superhuman? Now, the reason I'm asking that is because many people at the moment are heavily into personal development, as am I. And we're all looking to manifest and achieve our best life. And I approach that through what I call spiritual geomancy. Now, for those of you who don't know, geomancy is a mechanism by which we tune into earth energy and the cosmic consciousness. And we use that energy and consciousness to create a life of alignment, of fulfillment and abundance, so that we can manifest everything that we want in our daily lives. And one of the mechanisms that I use, well, I should just add to that, I call myself a spiritual geomancer because I'm not just concerned with things like earth energies as a static thing that we can dowse for, which we'll get onto in a minute. I also work very much with spirit, in the realm of spirit. So I work with nature consciousness, nature elementals, guides, all those kind of things, whatever you call them. So for me, geomancy has a very spiritual element to it, and that's why I'm a spiritual geomancer. So, but we all have abilities and capabilities to tap in to this cosmic consciousness, to source, to divinity, whatever you want to call it, to access information that is held as energy. So all energy is, all information, as I say, can be held as energy. And we can access, oh, hi, Linda. We can, thanks for joining me. We can access, so we can access this information at any point and anywhere and anywhen. We all have the ability to access the information. But how many of us have gone around in life thinking, God, if only I knew what to do next, if only I was sure what action to take, particularly when we're faced with crossroads in life. Do I go left or do I go right? Personally, I actually don't think it really matters. I tend to stick a pin in left or right and choose whichever one. They're all going to give you lessons. They're all going to give you learnings. So there is no end point. It's all about the journey. But sometimes it's really helpful to know information, and it's really helpful to be able to tap into the energy of our environment, the energy in the landscape, the energy all around us, so that we can work in synchronicity with the cosmic consciousness, what it's trying to do, what it's trying to manifest. As I say, when we're trying to grow things in our lives, it's much easier to do so in the growing phase of the spring if we're working to an annual calendar, like what do I want to achieve next year? Now is the time where we should be putting all our growth efforts in, because we're going into the spring season. The world is all about growth and getting our message and our schemes and our ideas out there, to see them sort of blossom in the late spring, early summer. And we can see our ideas taking shape out there in the world. And then we can interact with people and make sure those seeds set, and we generate something from those projects and ideas, which we can then harvest in the autumn. And then we can look at what we've harvested. We can take the seeds that we want to carry into next year. So that's how we work in synchronicity with energy over a yearly calendar. But we can also do that through the lunar month. So we do the same thing as the moon's coming up. You can hear my cat in the background. He doesn't like to be left out. So we can do that. So in the new moon, that's when we set our intentions when it's dark, and we watch them grow and we watch them come to fulfillment, and then we take that down again back to the new year. So we can work within the lunar cycles. Excuse me, I'll just pick up my notes because the cat just knocked them on the lap, and I have muddy footprints all over them. Cats are a joy. So energy is information. It is, it carries the sort of code, if you like, the cosmic code for creation within it. So It's in formation before it becomes form. So it's really fascinating concept. You know, our physical universe is what quantum physicists call the explica order. It's physical, we can see it, we have a 3D reality, we have a 3D experience, but behind that is what they call the implica order, where all your infinite possibilities exist in terms of energy, and that energy contains the information for all those infinite possibilities. So if we can tap into that information, we step beyond our conscious reality. Now, your conscious mind may scoff at that and go, oh, that's silly, because I can see and hear and feel the world around me. But there is so much more to reality than what we can simply see, hear and feel, because we only have a certain range within sight, touch and hearing. That's within a much larger spectrum of all sorts of fields and resonances, and the human experience is very narrow. You know, animals can see beyond our sight spectrum. They can hear beyond our hearing spectrum. They can smell beyond our smell spectrum. So ours is only quite a dense, limited experience in the human body. So if we want to really tap into our potential, we need to tap into that other side of us that is beyond the dense physical spectrum. And that's when we tap into other forms of consciousness, our own other consciousness. Now, that's very often easier said than done, is it not? Because I'm sure many of us have spent years meditating to feel slightly calmer, but not particularly enlightened. We try to live the best life we can, but still we might not have the life that we want. We try to be good people, we try to help others, but we're still not attracting that abundance, that amazing life that we want. And we're often faced with dilemmas, and we can blame ourselves and think, did I make the right choice? And I know personally I've made some very bad choices in the past when I wasn't listening to my intuition, when I overrode it. I overrode my intuition to marry a man who then subjected me and the children to 12 years of horrendous abuse, because I didn't listen to my intuition. I did what I thought I should do, what I ought to do, what was expected of me, what society expected of me. And that was a crock of shit, if I'm basically honest, because it landed me in terribly deep water that took me a long time to get out of. But lesson learned, don't go there again. So how do we tap into that superhuman realm of our consciousness that is able to communicate with this divine cosmic consciousness, this information as energy? Abraham Hicks talks about stepping into the vortex. Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about the quantum fields, just changing our reality, changing our perception, doing little different things. Well, one of the tools I use as a spiritual geomancer to help my clients tap into that information in a way that they can understand, in a way that makes sense to them, in a way that they can apply in the real world, rather than just thinking, oh God, I had an amazing experience, I felt great. Do you know, but now I've got to go back to work, and now I've got to deal with this and deal with that, and I'm still not sure what to do, and I felt great half an hour ago, and now I'm back to square one. So one of the techniques I actually teach people to do is a really, really simple technique, which we're going to discuss today, is dowsing, either with a pendulum like this or with dowsing rods. Now, dowsing in effect has got a slightly poor reputation in many quarters. Some of that will come from the fact that the dowsing was, if you like, demonized in many of the witchcraft acts. Oh, sorry, message just going off. Witchcraft acts in Europe over many periods of time. When that extended period of witch hunt was going on at the time of the Inquisition, dowsing was mentioned an awful lot at that time in the witchcraft acts, so that anybody who engaged in dowsing was deemed a heretic, and therefore, you know, it's just something you didn't do. If you didn't fancy getting burnt at the stake or drowned or suffering horrendous torture, best to stay away from it. And that actually carried on. If you could look into the history of that, that's a really interesting history actually, because a lot of it was tied up with property and wealth and what people were extracting, and the church wanted to get hold of it. But we won't go into that today. That's a whole different subject. But so your conscious mind, as I say, will often scoff at things that is beyond the conscious mind's remit, which is our physical 3D reality of, you know, dealing with stuff, life, what we can see, hear, feel and touch. Your subconscious and subliminal mind, they're slightly different, deals with all the other stuff. So your subliminal mind sets the parameters, if you're like, for what you can experience on a daily basis. So that's the subliminal mind, is what creates what we call mind filters that block out all the stuff that you don't want to be aware of. So let's say you're working in your business or you're working in your job and you're trying to concentrate. It's your subliminal mind that blocks out all the other distractions, interferences, noise that makes your daily life bearable. Your subconscious mind, and your subliminal mind deals with bodily processes. So you don't have to think about heart beating or breathing or digesting your food or your blood pressure. Your body just gets on with that without your conscious mind, does it not? So that's what your subliminal mind is largely doing. Your subliminal mind is also influenced by geomagnetic forces of the earth, electromagnetic forces, light spectrum, the sun, the moon, and many other things that trigger your bodily processes. I was always fascinated to learn that every night your liver does a cleanse, and what triggers that cleanse do is nothing within your control. It is changes in the light spectrum and where the moon is. Now, I think that's absolutely fascinating. That just shows how part of the universe we actually are. So those kind of things are well beyond your control, your conscious mind. They're just ticking away and happening. So, but your subconscious mind, that's the mind where we go into different brain waves. That's where we go into deep meditative states. That subconscious mind is able to connect to information in this implicate order, this non-physical realm that contains all the infinite possibilities and all the answers that we could ever want to create the life that we want. But I'm sure many of us at will, or well, I actually can, but it's very hard to develop a meditative technique that will get you into those brain waves. Now, I've worked with a lady called Dr. Serena Rooney-Dougal, who has studied the brain waves of Tibetan Buddhists in Tibet and Tibetan Buddhists not in Tibet. And there is a huge cultural difference between the two, no matter how hard they've meditated. That's to do with conditioning of the subconscious brain that deeply embeds our personal identity, our family identity, our cultural identity, that almost places limits on what we can achieve. And it's all to do with belief, a lot of it. So it's really interesting that we in Western society, no matter how long we meditate, we could be meditating for 30, 35 years, are unlikely to achieve the same brainwave states that the Tibetan Buddhists do in Tibet, for instance, just because we are subjected to so many other different influences. So how can we tap into our subconscious and gain access to that information? Now, this is where dowsing comes in. And as I say, it's got a bit of a poor reputation, sometimes because of the Witchcraft Act, and other times because I have seen people use it in quite weird and wacky ways. And dowsing, let me just put it this way. Dowsing is not about surrendering yourself, and I made a particular note of this. Dowsing is not about surrendering yourself to intuition and irrational processes. Because I see an awful lot of people when they're dowsing going, oh my God, the pendulum's moving. What's it trying to tell me? Oh, I'm channeling, I've got this information coming through, and it's part intuition and loads of irrational processes based on things that are flopping through their head at any given time, like a load of mad ideas. And then, and let's be clear for one thing, this pendulum, I mean, people say, oh, the crystal's telling me this. I mean, this is made of copper. Copper is not an omnipotent being. It does not know, that pendulum does not know the secrets of the universe. It doesn't know what day of the week it is. It doesn't know who I am. It doesn't know where I am on the planet. It is a lump of copper suspended on a string held between my two fingers. It is not the dowsing tool that is giving you the information. It is you that is obtaining the information through your subconscious mind by clearly expressed questions from your conscious mind. But your subconscious mind cannot answer in language because it doesn't speak language, but it does have control of your body. So what you do is you train yourself as a dowser to have a definite yes, mind goes anti-clockwise, and a definite no response. Now, through a clearly framed question that you ask with your conscious mind, and you have to let go of the outcome, and that's through training and proper question forming and being confident that you can deal with the answer. So when I'm training people, you ask a clearly defined question, well-worded question for something that you want to know, and then that will go into how this happens in a minute. So I've dropped my notes again because of the cat. Thanks, Smudgely. He's hungry, can you tell? So what then, your subconscious mind is able to abstract that information, but it can't give it you back. So it there's a what they call an idiometer response. So your brain sends little twitchy movements down your arm, and you move your arm in a yes, and move the muscles in your hand to achieve a yes or no response. But it feels beyond your control. And this is, as I say, because your subconscious and subliminal mind do all sorts of things with your body that your conscious mind isn't aware of. So it can take control of your mind, your body, just like that, to give you an accurate dowsing response. So, as I say, there's a, now that's to say that kind of sounds, to many people, it can sound like fantasy until you know a little bit about quantum physics and all the rest of it. So how does your mind extract that information? Now, your brain is a phenomenal subject. So if you're sat there and you know you're working away in your business, or you're thinking about things in life or health or happiness, and you're thinking, God, how am I going to achieve this? Or what do I want to achieve? What are my goals for this year? Now, this is partly to do with the law of attraction. They talk about your vibe. I'm not 100% stuck on the law of attraction because there are bigger societal forces at play as well that we are not responsible for, but we'll talk about that later on another occasion. So when we have these thoughts, we're asking these questions, obviously our brain is active, and we have brain waves. Our neurons are firing, neurons that fire together wire together. So we have these particular brainwave patterns that get stuck in our mind, which create our reality. So we self-perpetuate our own reality. When we ask these questions, our brain is active. And when our brain is active, your brainwaves create what they call a field. It's a field that goes out from your head, if you like. Now, what that field does, a field is basically, it's what they call a range or a zone of influence. Now, when you have a thought, oh, my brain's in menopause mode, completely stuck. I'm not yet, thank God. But, oh yeah, I'll do you a message about that, about menopause and hormones, actually, and what they call hydrogen water. Remind me, I'll drop it in later. So when you're dowsing, you're engaging your body, mind and spirit, if you like, because you're using your body to get the dowsing response. You're using your mind to actually think, but your subconscious mind is like that bridge. It's that bridge between science and magic. It's that bridge between physicality and altered states of consciousness, which has nothing to do with your physical being, but it actually is created by brain chemistry. So there's that bridge moment when you're dowsing that links all three. It's like that, it's that sacred trinity of body, mind and spirit. And that's what dowsing enables you to tap into. So we have to let go of fear when we're dowsing. So cats just say the bloody cats, not my notes on the floor. And they're all neatly in order. God, cats, they're a joy. I love him to bits. But you know when you've got that really important bit of paper, they just have to come and sit on it and knock it off, don't they? So when we're thinking, as I say, when we're thinking in a conscious, we're reasoning mind, it distills and processes information and blocks out everything that we don't consider to be real, that we consider to be lunacy, magic or heresy or whatever you want to call it. And dowsing has become part of that. But when we think, our mind creates thoughts. I'll get there in a minute, I'll get my notes back. And when you think, your mind creates what they call a field. Now, a field is, as I say, it's just a zone or a range of influence, like a magnetic field around a magnet, and like magnetic fields around the Earth. Now, what these invisible fields are now considered to be by leading scientists is more real than what we physically experience with our senses. So what we physically perceive as reality is a tiny fraction of what is actually going on in the universe. Now, when we tap into those fields, what we're actually going into is what they now class as the seventh sense. So your sixth sense is just sort of, oh, your intuition, really. It's sort of knowing things, but not, you know, that hunch. Oh, you know, will I get away without putting a parking ticket today? Or now I'll just nip to the shop, and you've got this nagging doubt, and then when you come back, you've got the parking ticket. That's kind of like your sixth sense. Knowing when someone stepped into the room, even though you haven't seen or heard them, you're turning around and there they are. Like I actually accidentally did to my mum this morning. I fretted to death. But the seventh sense, as I say, it's this is the field that is created by your mind. Now that field or zone of influence goes on forever, goes out there forever into the universe, and it becomes part of this information field where we can access all this this cosmic consciousness. Now what we do know, thank you Smudgely, what we do know is that when we ask a question, our mind puts this question out in the form of a frequency vibration that goes into this field of information. And what we do know, when our energy puts it out as a question, there are corresponding frequency wave within that field comes back. Now that is information as energy, which our subconscious mind can tap into, but it doesn't come in language, as I say. So what we do is we ask a carefully framed question through dowsing. We think about it, all that's going on, all these fields of information beyond our conscious awareness, the information is coming back. Our subconscious mind is able to translate that information, if you like, into a positive, which is a yes, or a negative, which is a no, through, I don't know, maybe the field of information or how it looks, because I see sometimes these fields of information. They look like kaleidoscopes, so quite how I get a yes or no out of it, I don't know. But then it gives us the dowsing response of a yes or a no answer through the idiomatic effect by moving our muscles. So we can obtain any information from anywhere and any when. And that is actually how dowsing works. It is not the crystal or the tool giving you the information or being influenced by outside sources. That, I think that belief, and this is only my personal opinion, and no doubt many people will disagree with me, but my personal belief is that is almost a tactic, if you like, a belief system to absolve yourself of responsibility for the outcome. It's kind of almost like, oh, everything happens beyond my control. I'm not responsible for what happens. You know, I was given this information. I've only acted upon it. So therefore, I'm not responsible for that information. Therefore, if the action I take doesn't give me what I want, it wasn't my fault. So I think there's an element of fear in there, in that belief. And I think there's an element of absolving myself of responsibility in case it all goes wrong. I personally would rather claim my ability, learn how to use it and master it to get the information that I want. So as I say, this field of information we can tap in touches all other energy fields of the universe, and that's how we can abstract that information. So that's to say, we have this perception of the universe as in physical reality, and there's space, and there's sun, there's moon, there's stars, and that's the universe. But actually that's only, as I say, what we can see as what they call the explicate order. And David Bohm, who's a quantum physicist, unfortunately no longer with us, but his books are amazing. He simply states that the universe, ultimately, the entire universe has to be understood as a single undivided whole, in which analysis into separately independent existent parts has no fundamental status, which takes us almost back to religion. As I say, we all have divinity within us. We're all made in the image of the divine. We are all one. Our consciousness is all one. We just happen to be having unique individual experiences. So what I want to do today, because I'm running a bit late, because you know me, I can talk for Britain. Too much stuff in my head was what I used to get told at school. You've got too much stuff in your head, you need to write it down and get it out. Not quite sure how effective my education. Well, actually, I have a very good education. It's just my mind. It goes everywhere. So, for those of you who have not dowsed before, what I'm going to talk about today is just getting a yes or no response. For those of you who have never dowsed. For those of you who want to join me tomorrow in my group, Divine Feminine CEOs, sorry chaps, group for women only, we're going to be talking about question forming. Because a lot of people have picked up a pendulum and sort of asked a vague question and it's moved. But then they're not sure whether it's a yes, they're not sure whether it's a no. And a lot of that is because they've asked what we call a poorly framed question. So for instance, I'll give you an example of a poorly framed question is, can I drink red wine? Now the answer to that is my yes. Because of course I can drink it. What's going to stop me? I could go out down the shop now, could buy 15 bottles of red wine, neck them all back, fall over blind drunk, couldn't I? So I can, but that's too broad a question, because would it do me any good? Is it going to contribute to my health? What am I trying to achieve from it? What result do I want to get from drinking 15 bottles of red wine, apart from being really ill and having to have my stomach pumped? What would be the outcome that I'm trying to achieve? So dowsing is only as accurate as the questions that you create. And to be accurate and form questions, you also need to know fundamentally what is your yes and your no response when you're dowsing. Now, one of the easiest ways to find your yes and your no response is to ask a question that you know the answer to. And when you're holding a pendulum can be anything. You don't have to buy a proper pendulum, by the way. I just like pendulums. So don't hold it on too long a string, because you'll be there till Christmas if you're only asking a simple question. There is no need to start from a rigid position and wait for the pendulum to move itself, because the pendulum does not move itself. You move it. You're just not aware of you doing it. Hold it on a short string. You don't have to hold it up in the air. I'm only holding it up in the air so you can see it on camera. So I tend to hold it in a nice relaxed position. Ideally, you want your shoulder nice and relaxed and your arms sort of just gently resting so that the pendulum will swing freely. You can start to move the pendulum first, because there's no point, as I say, waiting for a stance. So it's much easier to get it into a yes or no position if you've got some movement in the pendulum first. So to tap into your superhuman abilities to access this cosmic consciousness, this energy as information, one of the first things you can do when you're learning to douse, I say, is establish your yes and your no response. And the easiest way to do that is to ask a question that you know the answer to. So, as I say, I know my yes, as I'm looking at, is an anti-clockwise spin. So let me put it back. This is what we call the search position. This is when we're waiting to ask a question, like we're in neutral. We haven't put the car into gear yet, so we're just waiting to go. And then I will ask a very simple question I know definitely the answer to. Is my name Faye? And then we go into that spin. Now, as I say, I'm holding my pendulum in a really awkward position at the moment, and lots of people will say, but your hand's moving. And if you watch back in the video, you will see that. Of course it's moving, because it's me that's moving it. Now that might sound a silly thing to do, to ask to start with a question that you know the answer to. So if I ask then a no question, I will say, is my name Mark? And then I get a clockwise spin for no. So that's the opposite way. Now what I want you to do is just practice doing that. So you would approach a bowl of oranges and hold one in your other hand if you wanted to. And you would say, is this an orange? Is this a banana? And get your yes and your no responses sorted. And then from that, you can start moving into questions once you're really confident that you know your yes and you know. You're not going to put your hand on a wall. Is this a wall? Ask confident questions that till your yes and your no starts to really sink in, because what you're doing is actually you're training a muscle memory. So it's like, learning to vault on a vaulting horse. I have no muscle memory, and God forbid I should ever get on a vaulting horse. But you're training a muscle memory into your body that your subconscious mind, your subliminal mind can then go, when I'm dowsing, all I have to do is this. And that conscious mind then understands what I'm trying to convey. So you're almost you're putting in almost a muscle memory of what is a yes and what is a no. So practice that, and then from there you go on to progressing to questions that you do not know the answer to. Now they may become questions about things that can be affecting you in your environment. They can be questions about your health. They can be questions about your business, about decisions. They can be questions about your environment, all sorts of things that you don't know the answer to. And as I say, for those of you who are not in my group, Divine Feminine CEOs, the second part of this live will be in there tomorrow. As I say, sorry chaps, it's for ladies only, that group, because I mentor women in dowsing, geomancy and all sorts of things, so they can tap into this information. So if you want, I'll put a link to the group below. If you want to join me in there tomorrow, what we're going to be talking about, if you can get a pendulum in the meantime, is how to word questions so that you know what to ask and so that you can be confident in your responses, because that's so much when I'm teaching people to douse, is the difficulty that people have, is really knowing what to ask. And of course, you don't know what questions to ask if you don't know what subject you're asking about. So there is some degree of knowledge, but there is also questions that will highlight when you have a gap in your knowledge. As I say, dowsing is not about surrendering blindly to your intuition or irrational processes, or you can end up with really strange answers about, it's okay for me to drink 15 bottles of red wine because my great aunt's dead cat told me it was okay to do so. And that kind of, that's a bit caricature of an example, but there are so many dowsers I see out there coming out with really strange things. I was saying, I know I'm probably going to get a huge backlog about this, but it is about dowsing is about obtaining information that is relevant and applicable to your life, so that you as a soul, as a human being, can live the life you were born to, live the life you were deserved to tap into your other huge realms, your superhuman consciousness, and enable you to really live your life. And dowsing is a really simple tool. As I say, I use it as a tool within my geomancy, which is tapping into earth energy and cosmic consciousness and unlocking the energy held in within our body, within our environment, within our business. I see everything is energy, so it takes away the, using it that way, takes away the separatedness, takes away this boxing of, here's my physical body, my business is an entity that's got 4 walls and it does this, my home is a bricks and mortar entity. It is, but they're all still energy, and they're all still part of our daily experience. So you can use dowsing to view those things as an energetic construct, the information within the energy, to bring that then out of the information field, non-physical energy universe, to bring it to manifest into 3D in your conscious, dense, limited experience. I hope that made sense. My cat meowing in the background and everything else that's going on. So, as I say, if you want to join me in my group tomorrow. Now, for those of you who are interested in this thing, I mean, I currently have places available on my one-to-one coaching program, which is Sacred Feminine Living. I say it's for women only, because it's just, well, I've decided to work with women only. My choice, I can do what I like. So that tends to be for women who are developing spiritually, or maybe they've been, you know, new to the spiritual world, or they may have been developing for many years, but they've just not been getting the results they want. You might have been meditating, practicing the laws of attraction, trying to vibe, looking at your goals, but you're just not getting there. And this course will give you a mechanism for tapping in and having conversations with energy and with spirit, so that you're working with the creators of the universe, if you like, so you can co-create together, which means then you'll go from feeling unsure about what you want to achieve and your goals and your spiritual development, what your soul path is, to being sure and being able to manifest it. I'm very aware that there'll also be people watching this video that will be very new to the spiritual realm and thinking, well, I want to do something, but I don't know if it's for me. And then there will be people who it's very new. So as I say, I want you to have a go at doing the dowsing with the yes and the no responses. I'm going to put a link below to my group for those of you who may want to join me tomorrow. And I'm also going to put a link below to what they call is a discovery form on my website for anybody who wants to book a conversation with me about how you want to develop. The one-to-one Sacred Living program is a 12-month program because I work with you through the energy cycles of the solar year, the Earth's 4 phases, because they change, so you can understand how to go. It is an investment. It's for those people who are really looking to change their perception of reality and who they are, to let go of their parts of their personality that doesn't serve them, all those limiting beliefs, all the rubbish that we drag with us through most of our life, about getting rid of that. But I also do other programs as well for those who aren't quite there yet. So I run various things about courses on manifestation, the self-court, the divine dowsing mastery, which will teach you how to dowse, dowsing for equine health, all sorts of things. So I'm going to drop a link to the discovery call below. If anybody wants to have a chat with me, do. I'm a normal human being. There's no obligation. If you just want to have a chat about where you want to go, yeah, we can have a conversation. It's, you know, I hope I would leave you with value, that you wouldn't perceive it as 45 minutes of a waste of your time, that it would, you know, I want to give you something so that you get value from the conversation. You can go away with a better idea of how you want to develop, whether my programs are for you or not. So as I say, I'll drop the links below. Hope you've enjoyed it. Get your dowsing pendulum ready. As I say, dowsing pendulum doesn't have to be anything particular. It can be, let me just see if I've got one on my desk. Bear with folks. Brief interlude. If you want to join me tomorrow and join me in the group, you don't have to make a particular pendulum. You'll probably have something like this around your house. This is just a 5mm nut or whatever it is, probably, you know, a bit more than that. That's just a nut suspended on a piece of cotton. That's as complicated as a pendulum needs to be. I tend to take these out when I'm out in really rough areas or dowsing around horses. Then I might drop it in the stable and things like that. So it doesn't matter if I lose it. I've got crystal ones and copper ones and things like this, because these I don't want to lose. So, you know, you can make a pendulum, you can have a button suspended on a piece of cotton. It's better if it's an equilateral object, so it's going to be balanced when it swings, and it just needs to be suspended on a cotton or a chain or a cord or whatever you like, so that it can oscillate, swing around freely. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Join me tomorrow in my group, Divine Feminine CEOs, if you want to learn about question forming and how to get accurate dowsing answers to your carefully framed questions. So I will see you all tomorrow in the group, for those who want to join me. If not, I will see you next week on Reconnect TV Live. And yeah, like and follow if you like my content. Okay, see you soon then. Take care. Bye.